Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Part 138 based on novel. So let's start. Hikaitu was slumped at one side. Originally, he had thought that Hui Yuhao had wasted his learning on soul tools after more than a year of hard work, and that he would have caught up with him because of that. However, it seemed like he didn't manage to do so. He even seemed to have lagged further behind. The gap between their talents couldn't be closed so easily with hard work. However, his slump only lasted for an instant. Hikaitu was also very tenacious. Even if he couldn't catch up right now, that didn't mean he would forever be behind. At a certain standard, persistence, luck and intelligence all played very important roles. Hui Yuhao suddenly stopped as he was halfway through carving his core formation. Xian Ziwen was surprised when he stopped. Although he really wished for Hui Yuhao to stay and learn more about soul tools with him, he also subtly hoped that Hui Yuhao would succeed. Successfully creating an advanced tier soul tool was a great confidence booster for a soul engineer. This was why he felt very conflicted right now. It was very critical for a soul engineer to finish a core formation in one go. Stopping halfway was a recipe for disaster. However, following this, Xian Ziwen saw Hui Yuhao's Eye of Destiny slowly opening. Rose-gold sun rays spread from the Eye of Destiny. Very soon, they covered his entire forehead. The spiritual undulations in the room suddenly became very strong. Whether it was Hikaitu, Bei Bei, Xian Ziwen or Ji Juechen, they could clearly sense that their spiritual seas started to surge under the stimulation of that immense spiritual power. His spiritual power is so strong. Is it really possible for a soul sage to possess such immense spiritual power? Xian Ziwen suddenly lifted his hand and shut his mouth. This was the only way he wouldn't exclaim. He only took a glance at the Eye of Destiny before he saw the deep whirlpool within it. As he quickly shifted his gaze away, he was already shocked in his heart. If it was only a guess earlier, he was fully certain now. Yes, Hui Yuhao has a soul core. It's even a spiritual soul core. He only has 7 rings. 7 rings. Xian Ziwen's actions didn't catch anyone else's attention. This was because they also saw Hui Yuhao's Eye of Destiny. Ji Juechen's reaction was the quickest. He had the strongest willpower. In his heart, there was only his sword and Jing Xian. There was nothing else. This was why he quickly shut his eyes when he found out that Hui Yuhao's expression wasn't right. At the same time, he started to think about his sword intent. This helped him to break free from the weird spiritual undulations. Bei Bei was like Ji Juechen. Although he wasn't as pure as Ji Juechen, his willpower was still very strong. Once he discovered that something was amiss, he immediately lifted his hand to cover his eyes. At the same time, he unleashed his radiant holy dragon and circulated his soul power to protect his spiritual sea. This was why he wasn't too greatly affected. Xian Ziwen was a titled Doluor. Although he was astonished, he was fine. Hikaitu was the only one who was in trouble. He was originally astonished by Hui Yuhao's soul engineering talents. When Hui Yuhao's Eye of Destiny opened, he only felt dizzy before he was drawn in by Hui Yuhao's soul core. He couldn't shift his eyes away, and subconsciously took a step forward. However, he discovered something was wrong after taking this step. He tried to shut his eyes, but he realized he couldn't do so. Hui Yuhao's spiritual power was simply too strong. Furthermore, his soul core was spinning at the greatest speed the moment he opened his Eye of Destiny because he was too focused. This was why he was so greatly affected. Fortunately, there were others in the room. Xian Ziwen immediately rushed to Hikaitu's side and quickly covered his eyes. He then smacked Hikaitu's shoulder with his other hand. Hikaitu jolted awake from his astonishment. As he twisted his head to look at Xian Ziwen, there was already a horrified look on his face. Xian Ziwen sighed and shook his head to signal Hikaitu not to look at Hui Yuhao's vertical eye. At this moment, Hui Yuhao had already resumed carving. This time, he was evidently faster. Scraps of metal slipped off his fingernail. The small metal ball seemed to be dancing in his hands. Can he really succeed? No one knew the answer to this question, including Hui Yuhao himself. However, that tiny metal ball kept on changing. The dense patterns on it increased and increased. At the very end, the entire metal ball was shaped like a fretwork, and strange soul power undulations gradually surfaced within it. Xian Ziwen took in a deep breath before slowing letting it out. Before, he had used an entire day to finish this core formation. It was also then that he felt as if he had reached the peak of his abilities in terms of soul tool production. He would never forget that feeling. But right now, Hua Yuhao proved to be in better shape than he was back then. Furthermore, he had seen the blueprint for less than 3 days. He didn't have any experience or knowledge of how to create Class 8 soul tools. 2 hours passed. Hua Yuhao finally slowed down. There were beads of perspiration falling off his forehead. However, he was still as focused as ever. He didn't waver at all. His immense spiritual power ensured that he was still fully concentrated. He's about to finish it. Xian Ziwen subconsciously clenched his fists. Yes, I'm about to finish it, Hua Yuhao said to himself. He was only left with the final step, but this was a very difficult step to take. This last carving required him to twist his blade 18 times consecutively in one go before the patterns could be engraved. This didn't just require control of his spiritual power, but also strong soul power to support this motion. This was because this last carving was inside the rare metal. He needed to condense his soul power into a thin needle to perform the carving. Even a needle-shaped tool wouldn't work, because it wouldn't be sharp enough. Also, the angle couldn't be controlled as freely as it could with his soul power. This piece of rare metal in Hua Yuhao's hand was very tough. He needed to carve it using his soul power, twist his needle 18 times consecutively, and do everything with the same magnitude of strength. Unless one was a soul doluor, all of these were almost impossible. Xian Ziwen had the urge to ask Hua Yuhao to stop right now and let him finish this final step. In this way, Hua Yuhao's previous efforts wouldn't be wasted. Otherwise, if he failed, it would deal a huge blow to him. Just as he was hesitating, Hua Yuhao had already started. His left thumb and index finger pressed gently against the core formation. Even though he only touched it with his fingertips, his grip was still very sturdy. He had also retracted his dark golden terror claws. A small, jade-green needle-shaped light slowly appeared on his fingertip. Ice needle. Following this, Hua Yuhao moved his fingers. His body shone with jade-green light, while the ice needle that he had formed pierced into the core formation delicately. Under Hua Yuhao's control, it started to twist. The entire thing was a little raw. It wasn't perfectly smooth. However, Hua Yuhao didn't stop at all. His eye of destiny shone even brighter, illuminating his soul core. He completed this 18 rotation carving. He didn't even know some of the techniques because he had never learned them before. However, how did he complete it? Using his own way, he drained twice the amount of soul power. Xian Ziwen was filled with questions and astonishment right now. He couldn't believe that someone could be so talented. However, whether he believed it or not, Hua Yuhao still continued. In addition, he was still pouring out his soul power with even greater speed. The small core formation was already exuding dim silver light. This was evidently the result of pouring in his soul power. Moreover, it wasn't his ice-type soul power, but his pure soul power. There weren't any elements to this soul power. This also meant that Hua Yuhao was multitasking right now. Xian Ziwen's facial muscles were contorting. However, he was already numb in his heart. Was this a miracle? No, it wasn't a miracle to him anymore. It was a complete wonder. Whoosh! A light sound was heard. Hua Yuhao's jade-green ice needle brought out the last scrap of metal. The core formation had already been activated as Hua Yuhao poured in his soul power, and it now magically drifted in mid-air. There were tiny but obvious spatial cracks around the dim silver light. There were indeed spatial elements. This most vital core formation had finally been completed. Hua Yuhao let out a long breath and held onto the carving table as he panted. All 24 core formations had been completed, along with the outer shell of this soul tool. What Hua Yuhao had to do next was piece them all together before he was fully finished. Without a doubt, this assembly process would require greater soul power and technique. However, was he troubled? Hua Yuhao lifted his head and smiled at Xian Ziwen. "Teacher Xian, do we still have time?" Xian Ziwen turned gloomy. "Cut the crap. Be serious." Yes. Hua Yuhao's attitude was very positive, and he respectfully acknowledged Xian Ziwen's words. After that, he immediately began, and started to piece the components together. Doesn't he need to rest for a while? His arms opened to either side of his body. After this, he raised them up. Suddenly, the other 7 core formations in the third group all flew up and drifted in mid-air. There was an invisible air current around Hua Yuhao's arms that was guiding these pieces of metal. Controlling crane capturing dragon. Bei Bei muttered softly. The 7 pieces of metal slowly gathered. Under Hua Yuhao's control, they were congregating towards the silver ball that drifted in the air. This works. This time, Xian Ziwen was watching with a learning attitude. Among the 3 groups of core formations, this was the group that was the most difficult to form. The difficulty lay in the fact that the core formations had to be joined together as the Soul Master poured his soul power into them. There wasn't any room for error at all. Even if he could do it, he would still need some tools to complete it. But right now, he was only using his own abilities. Wasn't he afraid that his soul power was insufficient? His spiritual soul core spun quickly, and provided a large amount of soul and spiritual power to Hua Yuhao. The 7 core formations that were in the air were under his strict observation. He adjusted their positions and slowly but steadily joined them together. When they were only an inch from the silver ball, Hua Yuhao stopped them, then poured his soul power into all of them at the same time. Immediately, these 7 core formations brightened and exuded gentle silver light. At this point, Hua Yuhao carefully controlled them as they combined. With his spiritual detection in action, he didn't need to worry about any errors. Clang! An apple-sized group of core formations had been formed. Blinding silver light was rapidly sucking away Hua Yuhao's soul power. Among these 8 core formations, there were energy-storing core formations. This Class 8 decomposition cannon had to maintain the circulation of soul power within it as a means of stabilizing the spatial power. Shen Ziwen was completely in a daze right now. How did Hua Yuhao make this process seem so simple? Hua Yuhao let out a long breath as he saw the silver metal ball drifting in front of him. I've finally completed the critical step. Following this, he joined the other 2 groups of core formations. Since he had already joined the most difficult group, the other 2 groups were naturally not a problem for him. The next step would be the installation process. The dark sky slowly turned deep blue. Dawn was about to arrive. Hua Yuhao carried the 1.5-meter Class 8 decomposition cannon that was shining with dim silver light as he stood in front of Shen Ziwen. He has actually completed it. Shen Ziwen subconsciously took the cannon in his arms. He didn't even need to test it. He had personally watched Hua Yuhao create it. Even though he didn't use a conventional method, he didn't make any mistakes throughout the entire process. Hua Yuhao pulled a chair over and sat down. I've finally finished it within the time limit. Teacher Shen, can I go this time? Shen Ziwen used one hand to hold the cannon as he grabbed Hua Yuhao with his other hand, saying, Yuhao, did you learn how to create soul tools from someone else? Hua Yuhao laughed bitterly. No, didn't you see how raw I was? Shen Ziwen's lips moved. Raw? You call this raw? You managed to make a Class 8 soul tool after seeing the blueprint for only 3 days. It's even a complex decomposition cannon. You dare to call this raw? Hua Yuhao was a little embarrassed. Teacher Shen, have you forgotten? I was able to make a soul tool above my class before. When I was a Class 5 soul engineer, I could already make a Class 6 soul tool. That's why it's really nothing much. My spiritual power is above average. I have a natural advantage when creating the core formations. Shen Ziwen was a little speechless now. A genius indeed couldn't be measured using common logic. This kid has become a Class 8 soul engineer just like that. Isn't this too ridiculous? No, you can't go. I want you to remain and learn the basic knowledge of a Class 8 soul engineer under me. I have the confidence that you'll become a Class 9 soul engineer as long as you can become a titled Doluor in the future. Furthermore, what we really lack now is a talented soul engineer. No matter what, you can't leave this time. What? Seeing how persistent Shen Ziwen was, Hua Yuhao was completely annoyed now. Teacher Shen, you can't go back on your word. Didn't we agree? If I make this decomposition cannon, you'll let me go. Don't worry, I'll be back within a month. Shen Ziwen was adamant. No. Do you know how precious 1 month is? If the war continues, do you know when the enemy will come? Furthermore, I'm not going back on my word. You haven't finished this decomposition cannon. Don't tell me that you can make this soul tool unleash its full strength, even though an 8-ringed soul Doluor would find it difficult. Hua Yuhao's expression turned weird as he looked at Shen Ziwen. Bei Bei patted his shoulder and said, Yuhao, why don't you stay behind? I've already arranged things on the other side. Hua Yuhao shook his head and said, No, eldest senior. It would be fine if it were something else. But we're going to save Teacher Xiao Ya this time. I have to go. Teacher Shen, though I don't wish to contradict you, I have to tell you that I can perfect the use of this decomposition cannon if that means that I can participate in the mission. Rascal, are you out of your mind? It's already not easy for you to create a Class 8 soul tool. You still want to go above your class and try to use it. Creating it and using it are 2 different concepts. Shen Ziwen rambled furiously. Hua Yuhao sighed and said, Teacher Xian, my soul power is already at rank 80. In addition, I have twin martial souls. I have a natural advantage in terms of the total amount of soul power I have. Additionally, the purity of my soul power and the recovery ability of my spiritual soul core means that I can even try a Class 9 soul tool. What? Rank 80? Xian Ziwen wasn't the only one who exclaimed this time. Bei Bei, He Kai-tu, and Xian Ziwen all exclaimed at the same time. Hua Yuhao scratched his head and said, when I got those ice divine crystals, I inadvertently discovered some manifold mysterious ice essence. Only I can absorb that thing. That is why I made great progress. Oh, yes, eldest senior, I went to the Icefire Yin-Yang well and brought back some good stuff. I'll share it with everyone later. The plant-type soul beasts in the well gave it to me. It's the essence that they produced themselves. I believe it can help everyone's cultivation. Bei Bei looked at Hua Yuhao before turning to Xian Ziwen. He probed, Teacher Xian, surely Yuhao wasn't slacking, right? Xian Ziwen's breathing had evidently become a little unbalanced. Slack your head. After he finished speaking, he turned his head and left. Just as Bei Bei and Hua Yuhao thought he was angry, Xian Ziwen's voice sounded from afar. 1 month, just 1 month. 1 month later, you'd better get back. Do you understand me? You won't be able to leave then. Yes, I understand. Hua Yuhao was delighted. He knew that he had finally convinced Teacher Xian. Xian Ziwen didn't persist in asking Hua Yuhao to test the cannon. This was because he believed Hua Yuhao wasn't lying. Rank 80? He's already rank 80 at his age. He must have set a record in Shrek Academy's history. Xian Ziwen appeared to be furious as he left. However, he was actually very delighted. Hua Yuhao's foundation was there. He had full confidence that he could nurture Hua Yuhao into a true Class 8 soul engineer in the future. This matter is finally settled. Hua Yuhao only wanted to sleep right now. He had drained a lot of his energy over the past 3 days and nights. Little Junior, are you fine? If not, we can leave a day later, Bei Bei asked concernedly. Hua Yuhao shook his head and answered, there's no need for that, eldest senior. We can't make Dean Yang and Elder Song wait for us. I'm fine. I'll grab a bite later. I'll take this time to meditate for 2 hours and eat just before we leave. Bei Bei was in a good mood too. With Hua Yuhao around, he was more confident in their mission this time. This was especially after he realized that Hua Yuhao's soul power had reached rank 80. This also meant that the Tang sect finally had a soul Doluo apart from Teacher Xian. Little Junior, keep the stuff that you brought back from the Icefire Yin-Yang well with you first. There's bound to be casualties because of the war. We'll give them to whoever needs them. It's a waste to directly use it to increase our cultivations. Furthermore, we are cultivating quite well right now. Sounds good. Hua Yuhao acknowledged his words and immediately started to meditate. There was nothing better than meditating to restore his energy right now. Daybreak. The sky had already turned bright, and Bei Bei led those from the Tang sect outside Shrek Academy as they silently waited. Hua Yuhao was still a little listless even though he had already grabbed a bite. However, some of his energy had been restored after resting for 2 hours. He could only rest after getting to the front lines, but Shrek Academy wasn't too far from the fighting. Not long afterward, Dean Yang Xiaozhe and Elder Song walked out from the academy. Elder Song, Dean Yang. Bei Bei hurriedly rushed up to receive them. Elder Song smiled and asked, are you guys ready? We're all ready, Bei Bei answered. Elder Song was the most senior, and was also the strongest. Right now, it was evident that she was leading the rest. Bei Bei was leading the people from the Tang sect. With Xu Sanxia, Jiang Nannan, Hua Yuhao, Xiao Xiao, Ji Juechen, Nan Qiuqiu and Yi Gai with him, they indeed had a strong lineup for this mission. Only a few leading figures from the Soul Tool Hall remained in the Tang sect. Xian Ziwen, He Kai-tu, Jiao Delu, Nana, and Jing Xian were all holding the fort at headquarters. All right, let's move out. Elder Song waved her hand. She was already flying in the air. Yang Xiaozhe nodded at everyone else before he flew up. Ever since the last beast wave and after he was emotionally hurt, he had been keeping a low profile. Now that he was following Elder Song to the front line, and considering that Elder Song was Xian Linus' mother, he became even more reserved. Everyone from the Tang sect followed behind the 2 transcendent Doluo and proceeded towards the front line. Shrek City was within the Heavenly Soul Empire's territory. It was located to the southeast of the empire. Even though more than 2/3 of the Heavenly Soul Empire's territory had been occupied, the west of Shrek City was still under the Heavenly Soul Empire's control. Apart from this, the empire still controlled most of the southeast parts of its borders. The south of the empire was linked to the Star Luo Empire. To prevent the Sun Moon Empire from attacking them from the south, the Star Luo Empire did their best to support the Heavenly Soul Empire. This helped the remaining troops of the Heavenly Soul Empire regain some stability. East of the Heavenly Soul Empire was the Doling Empire. Close to half of the Doling Empire's troops were in the Heavenly Soul Empire trying to resist the Sun Moon Empire. The three empires of the original Doluor continent could be said to be banding together to fight a common enemy. The team from Shrek needed to cross the plains of the Heavenly Soul Empire and reach the north of it before proceeding to the northwest. In less than 500 kilometers, they would reach the front line. This showed how close the Sun Moon Empire's army was from Shrek City. For someone as strong as Elder Song, flying for 2 hours at her fastest speed would bring her to the front line. With the Tang sect team with her, they would need around 4 hours. From afar, the Sun Moon Empire's military base could be seen on the ground. This was the first time that everyone from the Tang sect had seen a battlefield of such a scale. Compared to the borders of the Star Luo Empire, the battlefield here was much larger. The Heavenly Soul Empire had set up their formation in a city known as Heavenly Spirit City. As they had too many soldiers, they had no choice but to extend their formation outside the city. Most of the army was quite spread out. This was to keep them all from being targeted by a single powerful soul tool. Ever since the start of the war, the Heavenly Soul Empire had on many occasions suffered under the hands of stationary soul cannons. There were close to 500,000 soldiers in the three empires. The Heavenly Soul Empire had the most soldiers here. A number greater than 100,000 was already very impressive, not to even mention 500,000. Peering from the sky, it appeared as if there were an infinite number of soldiers. On the other side, the Sun Moon Empire had around 300,000 soldiers 25 kilometers from the borders of the Heavenly Soul Empire. The weather was very good today. This was why the entire battlefield was visible. This was especially so for Hua Yuhao, who used his spirit eyes. He could even see the aerial surveillance soul tools over the Heavenly Soul Empire. What a vast battlefield! Although the Star Luo Empire had many soldiers, most of the empire was covered in mountainous regions, and the scale of its army was also not as great as that of the Heavenly Soul and Sun Moon Empires. This was why it wasn't very obvious that they had many soldiers. Rest for a moment. Elder Song asked everyone to stop. They weren't too far from Heavenly Spirit City. In a war, misunderstandings arose easily. To prevent this, it wasn't wise for them to advance recklessly. Elder Song lifted her hand, and a beam of light shot out. It suddenly exploded not far in front of her, turning into a green image. It was the symbol of Shrek Academy. Not long afterward, more than 10 figures approached from the distance. Hua Yuhao was immediately stunned. This was because he could immediately see that Princess Wei Na of the Heavenly Soul Empire was flying in the front. The Soul Masters with her were quite strong too. They were at least 7 ringed Soul Sages. It seemed like the Academy had notified them that Elder Song and Dean Yang were leading a team over. This was why there was such a distinguished welcome. The rest didn't know, but Hua Yuhao was clearly aware that Princess Wei Na's status in the Heavenly Soul Empire was like Princess Jojo's status in the Star Luo Empire. Very soon, Princess Wei Na and the rest were in front of them. They stopped 30 meters away. Greetings, you must be Elder Song. I am Wei Na from the Heavenly Soul Empire. Princess Wei Na greeted Elder Song. Those who were strong were usually well respected. Elder Song smiled and said, Princess Wei Na, you don't have to stand on ceremony. Wei Na quickly turned to Hua Yuhao. After nodding slightly at him, she gestured for Elder Song to follow her. The Soul Masters with Wei Na also made way for those from Shrek Academy to proceed towards Heavenly Spirit City. Wei Na and Elder Song flew side by side. As they flew, Wei Na softly described the current situation at the front line. Although Hua Yuhao's ears weren't as strong as his eyes, he could still hear Wei Na's words, as she didn't intentionally lower her voice. Princess Wei Na, how's the situation at the front line right now? Elder Song asked Wei Na. Princess Wei Na replied, it's still considered quite stable. Ever since the Star Luo Empire attacked the Sun Moon Empire, the pressure on us has been greatly alleviated. This has been especially so over the past month. The Sun Moon Empire's attacks have already ceased. They're only trying to stabilize their own territories now. At the same time, they are still trying to prevent all our surveillance. The most difficult thing for us now is to survey them. In terms of surveillance soul tools, we are really lagging behind. It's still a problem of surveillance. Hua Yuhao sighed in his heart. However, the Sun Moon Empire's advantage in this area was simply too great. Princess Wei Na didn't look too well. Her face was pale, and her eyes were slightly red. Evidently, she was overworked. Her empire's land had been invaded. As an important member of the imperial family, she was under great pressure. It was rumored that the imperial family of the Heavenly Soul Empire had suffered heavy damages when the empire was invaded. Then, the emperor even fought himself, and sustained critical injuries. Heavenly Spirit City was a large-scale city in the center of the Heavenly Soul Empire. It wasn't considered very far from Heaven Do City. After the capital was lost, this city was the last barrier that the empire had. If they lost Heavenly Spirit City, there would be a wide expanse of land behind it that the Sun Moon Empire could occupy. Princess Wei Na said to Elder Song, "Elder Song, my father wanted to personally come to receive all of you. However, he has yet to recover from his injuries. This was why he sent me over. I'm sorry." Elder Song shrugged off the apology and said, "You don't have to stand on ceremony right now. We have a common enemy. Also, the Academy has been receiving support from the Heavenly Soul Empire all this while. It's only right that we help you on the battlefield. Your Highness, you should know our plan, right?" As she spoke until here, Elder Song's gaze turned sharp. Princess Wei Na nodded gently, and didn't say anything else. The plan that Elder Song referred to was naturally the 3 Soul Engineer Legions that Shrek Academy was establishing. Currently, only the core members of the 3 empires of the Doluor continent knew about this plan. By asking this question, Elder Song was confirming Wei Na's status in the Heavenly Soul Empire. Everyone proceeded towards Heavenly Spirit City. Currently, the city had been completely revamped. Hua Yuhao saw the Zhuge Divine crossbow cannons that the Tang sect had manufactured on top of the city walls. There were even quite a number of them. It seemed like all the Zhuge Divine crossbow cannons that the Empire had bought from the Tang sect, as long as they were in perfect condition, were out. There were very few civilians in the city. Soldiers were everywhere. Princess Wei Na said, "The civilians of the city have been evacuated to a safer place. Right now, this has become a military establishment. It's also our last line of defense." As she spoke until here, she couldn't help but sigh. She revealed a slightly sad look in her eyes. A few months ago, who would have expected the great Heavenly Soul Empire to be embroiled in such a tragic state? After entering the city, Princess Wei Na personally arranged the accommodations for those from Shrek Academy. They were temporarily allowed to stay within Heavenly Spirit City. After that, she personally escorted Elder Song and Dean Yang to meet the senior commanders of the coalition army that had formed between the 3 empires. Everyone from the Tang sect remained behind to rest. Hua Yuhao was already too tired by now. Once they were given their accommodations, he immediately went to his room to meditate. He was in great need of a rest. When he awoke from his meditation, the sky had already turned dark. It was evidently evening now. Hua Yuhao let out a breath as he walked out from his room. He felt very refreshed. His great spiritual power and life energy meant that he had abnormal recovery abilities. Furthermore, he was still absorbing the manifold mysterious ice essence in his blood, and his soul power was thus increasing steadily. He was consolidating his rank 80 cultivation. The Ice Bear King had naturally followed him on this trip. However, he was a savage beast. Ordinary soul masters couldn't recognize him, but there were body sect members at the front line. Those who were stronger could naturally recognize the Ice Bear King. If they wanted to deal with him, trouble would ensue. Although it wasn't a big possibility, Hua Yuhao still asked the Ice Bear King to rest in his spectral demiplane. There, he had prepared sufficient food. In fact, tea was all the food that he had stolen from the ration warehouse in the Heaven Do City. With that food around, the Ice Bear King wouldn't need to worry for at least the next half-month. "Are you awake?" A gentle voice sounded. Hua Yuhao turned his head to take a look, and saw Yi Gai standing not far away from him. They were all allocated a room within a small courtyard. This was why they entered the courtyard the moment they stepped out of their rooms. Hua Yuhao smiled as he said, "Gai, your cultivation has been improving well." This was his first solo interaction with Yi Gai since he had returned. From the soul power undulations that she released, he could clearly tell that her cultivation should be around rank 70. She must have had experienced great progress during her closed-door cultivation. Yi Gai smiled and replied, "I'm still far from you. You're my target." Hua Yuhao smiled. "You're a little too ambitious." Yi Gai rolled her eyes and said, "You're too arrogant." Hua Yuhao chortled, "I'm only speaking the truth." What are you guys talking about? Nan Chocho suddenly appeared out of nowhere. She took a few steps to reach Yi Gai and said warily to Hua Yuhao, I've experienced great improvement too. Why haven't you praised me before? Hua Yuhao helplessly said, you've experienced great improvement. Why can't I tell? I only think that you've been idling all the time. You. Nan Chocho was furious, and was about to act up. At this moment, a knocking sound was heard from the door to the courtyard. Nan Chocho glared at Hua Yuhao first before going to open the door. Hua Yuhao revealed a stunned look when he saw who was outside. Wasn't that Princess Wei Ena? Your Highness. Nan Chocho was shocked. Wei Ena smiled and asked, can I come in? Please do. Nan Chocho immediately made way. After meeting with the senior commanders in the afternoon, Elder Song and Yang Shaozhe had expressed that their sole intention for coming here was just to save people. Of course, they would do their best to help the Empire. It was just that the possibility of a fight breaking out now was very slim, given that the situation was very stable. Hua Yuhao didn't know what was going on, but Yi Gai and Nan Chocho were clearly aware. Why is Her Highness here? After entering the courtyard, Wei Na naturally turned to Hua Yuhao. She revealed a surprised look on her face when she saw him and said, Yuhao, you're here. I came here to look for you. Me? Hua Yuhao pointed at his nose and asked. Princess Wei Na nodded and replied, yes. Can we talk in your room? I have something to tell you. Hua Yuhao hesitated for a moment before replying, all right then. Your Highness, please. As he spoke, he led Princess Wei Na into his room. Nan Chocho's eyes widened when she saw Wei Na closing the door. She turned to Yi Gai and said, Sister Gai, see. This guy is attracting the attention of ladies everywhere he goes. I really don't know what's so attractive about him. Yi Gai laughed and answered, what attracting the attention of ladies? You're thinking too much. Nan Chocho wasn't pleased as she said, how am I thinking too much? If he's not attracting attention, why did Her Highness come to find him? Isn't she one of the senior commanders in the Heavenly Soul Empire? I heard she holds an important position too. If it's for official matters, she should find eldest senior even if she doesn't find Elder Song or Dean Yang. Why did she come to find him? There must be something going on between the two of them. Yi Gai knocked her head and said, what have you been thinking about? Why can't you think properly? Obviously, there's only a very ceremonial interaction between Her Highness and Yuhao. Furthermore, her empire is already in such distress. How would she have time for relationships? There must be some official matters. Don't forget that Yuhao is very symbolic of the Tang sect. Even eldest senior has to consult his opinions on many matters. In addition, he is very adept at surveillance. I think it might have to do with that. Nan Chocho blinked and said, hey, Sister Gai, I've discovered that you've become smarter. Yi Gai snapped as she said, I didn't. It's just that you got dumb. The more concerned you are, the more distressed you'll be. You even persuaded me earlier. Why do I feel that you're sinking in deeper and deeper? No. Nan Chocho's face turned red before she denied the allegation. Yi Gai smiled, you know for yourself whether it's true. Whatever you said to me before, say it to yourself now. Hua Yuhao invited Wei Na to take a seat, while he sat in the opposite chair. Apologies, Your Highness, I've only just moved in. There's nothing I can serve you with. Wei Na shook her head and sighed lightly, I don't have the mood to deal with all that now. However, the temperature in your room is a little low. Hua Yuhao smiled as he replied, I was cultivating earlier. Have you forgotten my martial soul? Wei Na was suddenly enlightened. Oh, right. Yes, you have an ultimate ice martial soul. Hua Yuhao nodded and said, Your Highness, I wonder what you are here for? Wei Na lifted her head to look at Hua Yuhao. There was a deep look in her eyes, as if there were some kind of special emotional undulation contained within. Although Hua Yuhao's spiritual power was strong, he still grew a little awkward as she stared at him like this. He was too embarrassed to probe. At this moment, Wei Na kneeled down in front of Hua Yuhao and kowtowed to him. Yuhao, please save the Heavenly Soul Empire. Hua Yuhao's hair was already standing from her stare earlier. However, he was astonished by what she did right now, and immediately rushed forward to lift her up. Your Highness, what are you doing? We can talk. Wei Na allowed Hua Yuhao to lift her up. However, she was already tearing up when she faced Hua Yuhao again. A woman's tears were very lethal. When he saw the tears in her eyes, Hua Yuhao felt very sour in his heart. Princess Wei Na was very awe-inspiring before, but now, she. As he thought until here, he couldn't help but sigh and said, "Your Highness, if you have anything to tell me, just tell me directly. I'll help you in whatever way I can. Thanks." Wei Na sobbed as she nodded. "I'm sorry, I lost my composure. I've been under far too much pressure during this period of time. It feels so good to see you again. I still remember the first time we met. Huo Yuhao didn't say anything, but just sat there quietly. If he really took her as a weak young lady, he would be committing a very foolish error. Princess Jojo was already very impressive. However, Huo Yuhao thought more highly of Princess Wei Na. Wei Na rubbed her tears away when she saw that he had no reaction. She said, "The Sun Moon Empire has come too abruptly. They've completely sealed off our surveillance on them. Initially, I was delighted that we had the body sect with us. I even thought that our overall strength was superior to the Star Luo Empire. However, who knew that the Sun Moon Empire's soul tools were of such impressive standards? When I first saw that great explosion that tore our defensive line apart, how our advanced tier soul masters were killed and how our enemies were completely fine under their linked defensive barrier, I realized how foolish my thinking was." She seemed a little distracted and lost as she spoke until here. She wasn't trying to earn pity from this, but it was her true feelings. She had gone through too much over the past few months. The empire had collapsed, countless lives were lost, and everything seemed to be greatly connected to soul tools. After sighing, Wei Na turned her attention to Huo Yuhao. "When I first saw you, I had already realized the importance of soul tools. Honestly speaking, even though we've lost very heavily, we would have been in a worse state if not for the Zhuge divine crossbow cannons that the Tang sect has produced. I heard about your exploits in the Star Luo Empire. You were the one who helped the Star Luo Empire regain control of the Mingdo mountain range, that relieved the pressure on us. Although you didn't directly participate in the war, you are still a benefactor of the Heavenly Soul Empire. Even though the Heavenly Soul Empire is in decline, I can still make decisions. I can give you a knighthood." She was filled with hope as she looked at Huo Yuhao at this point. She waited eagerly for his answer. Huo Yuhao was in shock right now. This Princess Wei Na is indeed very impressive. How did she know I helped the Star Luo Empire regain control of the Mingdo mountain range? The Star Luo Empire wouldn't have publicly revealed any of the details of that. Furthermore, she also knows that I was offered a knighthood by the Star Luo Empire. Otherwise, she wouldn't have suggested that to me. A knighthood in the Heavenly Soul Empire is still very good even though the empire is only left with 1/3 of its original territories. In terms of intelligence, the Heavenly Soul Empire should be ahead of the Star Luo Empire. Huo Yuhao shook his head gently and replied, "I'm sorry, Your Highness. Perhaps you already know that I was offered a knighthood by the Star Luo Empire. But I'm doing that because of some personal matters. I'm not being greedy. I appreciate your offer." Princess Wei Na sighed in her heart. She was already very open with her words, but Huo Yuhao still rejected her outright. "Yuhao, you know the situation we're in. I can offer you more, but it can only happen once we are faring better. If you have any needs, please feel free to tell me. She's only talking about benefits. It seems like she's after something big." Huo Yuhao pondered for a moment before answering seriously, "Your Highness, I have nothing I need. My needs are the Academy's needs. As long as the Heavenly Soul Empire continues to support the Academy, everything's fine. If you need help, feel free to ask me." What a stubborn fellow. Wei Na was secretly depressed, but the look on her face turned more and more melancholic. "I just hope that you can help the Heavenly Soul Empire one day. We won't forget your contributions. If we can do it and you need it, just tell us. This promise is for forever. Honestly speaking, I'm only here today to build a good relationship with you. You don't have to think too much. That's right, I'm here to pull you over. Furthermore, I was determined before I even came. No matter what request you have, we'll do our best to fulfill it. That includes my body." Princess Wei Na lowered her voice. When she finished speaking, she had already lowered her head. Her voice was soft, but it was audible enough for Huo Yuhao. She was very beautiful, and she was also being flirtatious now. To any man, she was devastatingly attractive. Even Huo Yuhao was slightly moved when he saw her like that. "Your Highness, you don't have to be like that. We have a common enemy now. Everyone knows that we're doomed if the Heavenly Soul Empire is destroyed by the Sun Moon Empire. That's why we'll do our best to help you. It's just that you should know that Shrek is working with all the empires. What we can do now is only to stall for time. While the Sun Moon Empire's soul tools are powerful, they aren't as strong as the three empires combined. After occupying so much land, they'll need time to settle in. This time is very valuable to us. Yes. Wei Na nodded gently before she stood up and said, Yu Hao, I've already told you my intentions clearly. Since you don't have any requests, I'll leave first. There are still things I need to settle. It's still the same. If you have anything in the future that you need us to help you with, we will support you without any hesitation. Your Highness, you're too kind. Hu Yu Hao nodded slightly before he stood up and sent her to the door. She suddenly turned around when she reached the door. She looked at him with a sharp gaze. Hu Yu Hao was slightly taken aback, and only heard Wei Na whisper, Do you have that kind of male problem? What? Hu Yu Hao was confused, and his face turned red. He didn't expect the elegant Princess Wei Na to ask such a question. Wei Na chuckled before leaving. As she left, she muttered to herself, I'm finally feeling better. Hu Yu Hao's lips shuddered as he watched her leave. Even though he knew that Princess Wei Na was only being herself at the end, it was too ridiculous. Princess Wei Na left, and Bei Bei appeared from the side. He laughed, Little Junior, was she here to bribe you? Hu Yu Hao laughed bitterly as he nodded. He had already felt that Bei Bei wasn't far from them just now. Although Princess Wei Na wasn't being very loud earlier, Bei Bei could still hear her, given his cultivation. Bei Bei laughed, You're in demand right now. Isn't it good being the prince consort? Hu Yu Hao's face turned black. Eldest senior, even you're laughing at me. Haha. Little junior, a man must never say no. Bei Bei laughed before walking off. Hu Yu Hao immediately chased after him and asked, Eldest senior, when do we take action? Bei Bei replied, We'll discuss that after dinner. Elder Song and Dean Yang are both back. Elder Song said that the Heavenly Soul Empire hopes that we can help them with surveillance. It seems like they know what you did for the Star Luo Empire. They want to fully use us. Princess Wei Na probably came to find you for that reason. She's a clever lady. She knows that you're adept in this area, and how important you are to the Tang sect. She might even know that you'll be one of the main commanders of the 3 Soul Engineer Legions in the future. Bribing you will be beneficial to the Heavenly Soul Empire. Hu Yu Hao nodded and replied, I think so too. Bei Bei glanced at him amusedly, Of course, we can't exclude the possibility that she's really into you. After all, my little junior is a man of many talents. You are fit enough to be with Her Highness. Hu Yu Hao laughed bitterly, Eldest senior, stop mocking me already. We have to perform surveillance. If we don't, we can't find teacher Xiao Ya. It's fine if we coordinate with them in this area. Furthermore, we'll need their help if we want to save teacher Xiao Ya. Without the war as a cover, it's impossible for us to enter the Sun Moon Empire's military. Bei Bei's expression turned serious as they talked about saving Tang Ya. In fact, no one was more anxious compared to him. Tang Ya had disappeared for so long. It had been so many years. In all these years, Bei Bei had been in torment. He was like that when he didn't have news of her. When he received news of her, she had already become a holy lady of the Holy Ghost Church. He clearly knew where his lover was, but he couldn't save her. Right now, it was clear how tortured he must feel. Now that he finally had a chance to find her, he was undoubtedly very anxious. However, the conflict between both armies involved close to 1 million soldiers. How easy was it to find someone from 1 million people? Furthermore, Tang Ya was on the enemy's side right now, and none of them knew how strong she was. In addition, she should be surrounded by powerful individuals from the Holy Ghost Church. To save her, a plan had to be hatched first. Let's go and have dinner. After dinner, we'll start planning. Bei Bei grabbed Hu Yu Hao's shoulder and walked towards the guest hall. Dinner was very scrumptious. The Heavenly Soul Empire went to great efforts to prepare this dinner for them. Elder Song and Dean Yang sat in the main seats, while those from the Tang sect formed a circle. Everyone ate very quickly. The food consisted of rare delicacies that were very nourishing to Soul Masters' bodies. However, everyone was concerned about their mission this time, and couldn't be bothered to rave about how delicious the food was. Dinner ended quickly, and there were servants who helped them to clean up the dining table. Elder Song then said, All right, let's talk about our mission. Everyone unwittingly sat up straight. Even Yang Shaozhe wasn't an exception. In front of Elder Song, he was a junior. After pondering for a moment, Elder Song turned her attention to Yang Shaozhe and asked, Shaozhe, what's your opinion? Yang Shaozhe said, I'll first talk about what we learned from the Heavenly Soul Empire today. Currently, the Heavenly Soul, Douling and Star Luo empires are all gathered somewhere. Over here, there are 9 Soul Master Legions and more than 20 titled Doluo. The overall strength is rather great. The marshal of the three armies is a prince from the Heavenly Soul Empire known as Shui Shui. He hopes that we can help the Heavenly Soul Empire weaken the Sun Moon Empire's surveillance abilities. At the same time, he provided some information on their army. He'll coordinate with us for this mission. Elder Song added, their request is still quite reasonable. After all, we only have 11 people. It's impossible for us to change the entire situation of the war. However, we can still weaken the enemy's surveillance abilities. Elder Song was one of the strongest agility-type soul masters currently living. She was a rank 97 transcendent Doluor. If she made an appearance, it would be very easy for her to destroy some of the surveillance soul tools, unless the Sun Moon Empire had some kind of strict setup. Elder Song turned her attention to Bei Bei. Bei Bei, tell me your opinions. Bei Bei was the leader of the Tang sect, and one of the symbolic figures of the academy too. Bei Bei nodded and replied, Elder Song, Dean Yang, our main aim here is to save Xiao Yue before we do our best to help the Heavenly Soul Empire, under the condition that we can ensure our personal safety. That's why I think we should perform our own surveillance first, and find out where Xiao Yue is. At the same time, we can find out what the Sun Moon Empire's setup is before we decide on the best course of action. Elder Song nodded slightly and was amused as she looked at Huo Yuhao. She asked, come, our little surveillance hero. How do you think we should act with regards to the Sun Moon Empire? Huo Yuhao's exploits at the Mingdo mountain range had long spread to the academy. As an important member of the Sea God's Pavilion, Elder Song naturally knew what had happened. After hearing Elder Song's words, even Yang Shaozhe revealed a grin on his face. Before Huo Yuhao had even grown up, Yang Shaozhe had already thought very highly of him. Now, Huo Yuhao was all grown up, and was one of the symbolic figures of the younger generation of Soul Masters. He was also the Soul Master with the highest potential in the Tang sect. Huo Yuhao rarely returned to Shrek Academy now. Even if he did, he would leave shortly thereafter. Yang Shaozhe didn't know the extent of his abilities. In terms of seniority, Huo Yuhao was still considered his little junior. Huo Yuhao coughed and replied, Elder Song, Dean Yang, I'm no hero. If we're talking about surveillance, I think I should be fine performing super high aerial surveillance on the Sun Moon Empire. Given my understanding of the Sun Moon Empire's aerial surveillance soul tools, I believe they can only keep their soul tools at an altitude of 3,000 meters. As long as I'm above that altitude, I can basically confirm their overall situation. However, as it's too high up, the details might be a little vague. I can perform this surveillance. It'll be difficult to pinpoint teacher Xiao Yue's location. My spiritual detection can only work within a certain region. Furthermore, there are bound to be spiritual barriers around certain soul tools in the Sun Moon Empire. Once my spiritual detection touches those barriers, I will immediately be discovered. If I'm within range, I'll definitely be attacked. If the Sun Moon Empire discovers me, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to escape. It's quite difficult to retreat completely. That's why I suggest that we need to at least fight them once if we want to bring teacher Xiao Yue back. Or we can ambush them in the night. It's only when we interact that I can bring reliable information back, but only if we can sufficiently protect ourselves. As for how he was going to survey the Sun Moon Empire, Huo Yuhao naturally already had a plan. After his many rounds of surveillance during the war, he was slowly gaining experience. During his ultimate soldier plan training, he also slowly made it a part of him. Moreover, his ability to protect himself had grown significantly as his abilities grew. He even had the Ice Bear King as his trump card. He knew that he had the confidence of fighting any enemy if the fight was small scale. Even against a titled Doluor, he believed he could still retreat successfully. After hearing Huo Yuhao's words, Elder Song was even more amused. No wonder you're a talent that we nurtured from our ultimate soldier plan. If we want to spark a fight, we'll need the Heavenly Soul Empire's help. We'll also need to be careful. You should know that the Sun Moon Empire has Soul Engineer legions, and they react very quickly. Their attacks are also very lethal because of their linked soul tools. If things go awry, we run the risk of suffering heavy casualties. Huo Yuhao nodded and answered, yes, I've thought of this already. That's why we can't have too many people around if we want to ambush them. However, we'll need strong individuals. If we can deploy some of the titled Doluor from the Heavenly Soul Empire, it would be fantastic. What do you think about leading this fight? Elder Song asked. Me? Huo Yuhao was stunned, and hurriedly said, how can I? You and Dean Yang are both around. I'm only a small soldier under the two of you. Elder Song laughed. All right, you don't have to be modest. If you're talking about fighting a war, Xiaozhe and I are both not experienced enough. You've already participated in many fights against the Sun Moon Empire, and you know their soul engineer legions better than us. We're not real soldiers. Whoever's capable will lead us. Let's do this. From now on, all 10 of us, including me and Xiaozhe, will be under your command. As for liaising with the Heavenly Soul Empire, I'll do it. What do you guys think? Those from the Tang sect naturally weren't in a position to say anything, but they were all stunned. They didn't think Elder Song would think so highly of Hu Yuhao. Yang Xiaozhe said without any hesitation, I think it's feasible. Elder Song, you're wise. Hu Yuhao smiled bitterly as he looked at Elder Song and Dean Yang. Why do both of them look so sly with their smiles? Am I not being put in a spot? I have to command both of them. Elder Song said with a straight face, Yuhao, you don't have to be stressed. We aren't joking around with you. You'll lead this mission, and we'll do our best to coordinate with you. You're the only one who truly knows what's going on with the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineer Legions. Furthermore, we've never fought a real Soul Engineer Legion before. You should know that our individual strengths are less prominent with the existence of linked soul tools. Otherwise, the Heavenly Soul Empire wouldn't be in such a state with the help of the Body Sect. This video will end here.